Okay, guys, here's a recap of day one of the Home Entertainment Show, Long Beach 2022. It was a great day, and actually, I was a little worried at first, the first hour, although I'd get there right at, yeah, actually before 12. There wasn't a whole lot of people there, and you probably noticed that in my early videos. But by the midday, or at least an hour into the show, I really couldn't get to the sweet spot in almost any room. So you probably noticed that in many of my videos, even Expona, I was more successful getting sweet spots. But it's a smaller show, longer weekend, so I'll have time to go back to many of these rooms and get the sweet spot. But it brings up a macro point I wanted to get out the way first. Well, two macro points. Number one, on the music side, you really don't go to these shows just to find the best sounding room. There's too many variables. The volume level, the quality of the music, is it your taste? Are you in the sweet spot? And the rooms, you're hearing a lot of variables that you can't attribute 100% to the equipment at that time. So what you're there is to kind of see what kind of ceiling or potential or design things that are unique that may be intriguing to you. And also, what you're there to do is try to meet the people running the room. That's what's paid off to me, because it parlays into the second takeaway of what's so much fun about going to these shows is networking and getting to know some really genuine, passionate people that are helping the industry advance. And choosing where you spend your money is more than just which product has the best sound. It has to do, at least for me, and I think for most of my subscribers and people I know, it also has to aesthetics will play a part, but the people behind the company make a big difference. And I want to support, you're spending a lot of money on this gear, okay? Even on the budget level, it's still a sizable amount of money you're spending from whatever your income level is. And you want to put that money in the hands of people that you feel good about supporting. And for the most part, this industry is filled with a lot of good companies. And this show particularly attracts a lot of those. It's a smaller show. And the quality of both the people, the audiophiles attending, and the exhibitors is really high, even though it's small. And so the rooms, sound wise, were all good. I didn't have any major problems. I will, in the membership section, if I had anything to call out, I don't like to call out anything on the public channel, but really there's not much other than I'll talk about demos, scripted demos in the membership section, what I don't like and what I do like, and stuff about that. But in terms of rooms, let's talk about on the personal side, the networking side, because that's part of the fun of why I come. And networking, like I had some videos last night going to dinner with Charles Kiermuse and JR with Wally Tools. Those are two guys that, regardless of your budget of what you bought in vinyl, they are helping you advance what you have to another level. And so even though I don't have vinyl, I appreciate what those guys are doing, like to give them attention, and they're great guys on top of that to hang out with outside of audiophiles. So we had a great time last night. Saw Stephanie, who longtime subscribers know. I have a playlist of videos when she lived in Houston. She lives out here in Manhattan Beach. So she suggested a restaurant last night, and we went to that. It was great. So we had a good time. So hopefully you enjoyed seeing her again. I don't know if she's going to come to the show, but in any case, getting back to the rooms, though, I know lots of you like to hear what my favorites are. And again, it's really more about going and hearing for yourself what you like, because what I like can be different from what other people like. And what you're there to kind of feel for is which type of speakers and electronics and design philosophies resonate most with you. Everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses. Nobody's made a perfect system yet. So you want to go there and try to see what rooms and types of design styles resonate with you, as well as the people behind the room and stuff like that. And so for me, the first day, ironically, it's kind of a theme now. At Expona, first day, first hour, I ran into the Ari Sarat room and that Tiger Fox room. That were two of my favorite rooms at different extremes at Expona. Same thing here. I went into the Voss audio room as my first room, and still, in terms of sound at the time and getting the sweet spot because it was early, it's still the best sound I've heard yet at the show, because I haven't been able to get in the sweet spot with a lot of other rooms. But even if I got in the sweet spot of the other rooms, I think that room would still be near the top of my list. It just sounded great. And even though they're playing vinyl, which isn't my favorite because, as you probably even could hear on the recording, there was a higher noise floor of hiss and pops and ticks, which usually kill it for me. That kills the realism. But it still was so good overall that I really overlooked that aspect of it. I really got into the music. It wasn't even music I was familiar with. So I want to spend more time with the Voss guy, learn more about his philosophy. He's a relatively new company. I think he debuted last year. I featured his room with the Graham speakers, which were really good. This year he used the PBN speakers and the PBN turntable. Excellent. Exceptional. And so that's sound quality alone near the top of my list. And then again, the guy behind it is definitely thumbs up so far in my limited exposure, and I'll try to get more information on him for you. Next door to him, the PBN room, that's always made my list as one of the top companies that does it all from speakers to electronics, digital. Didn't disappoint again, great room. Other rooms that stood out, let's talk about some budget rooms really quick, because I know it's very easy to just focus on mega dollar rooms. But I thought the SVS room with the home theater setup in a hotel room, they deserve tons of credit for doing that. I mean, that's very hard to do and make it listenable and realistic. And so props to them. And like I said, when you're in a budget for a subwoofer that's modest budget, even though I have the REL 25, anything below that though, I typically recommend SVS. Okay, it's just too much value for the money, too much value for the performance level, and they really do a great job. I'm not as familiar with their floor standards and all that other stuff, but sounded fine in home theater purposes. And so maybe I'll see if I can get them to do a DVD audio if they have any of those that I usually use in my setup, and we'll see how they perform. But it's going to be so hard in a hotel room, so props to them. There's another one, I think the guy's name is called Black Ocean Audio. Unfortunately, I had the video. Somebody requested Beatles, so I ended up recording them playing the Beatles. The Beatles ends up nixing any video. Like, they blocked the video. So I uploaded it, and then I got a message that it blocked. So I'm going to go back, but this guy deserves a lot of credit. Budget-oriented speakers, but when you look at the cabinet structure, you can look inside. He's building these to a level with bracing and stuff that you don't see at all, in some of these even high-dollar speaker cabinets. And then what he does really brilliant is puts the crossover box in a separate box, but makes it part of the stand of the speaker. And so when you hear a young guy that's only been doing it for, I think he said 7 months or something, a little bit of time, young guy, and he's talking about, yeah, the crossover parts are right behind usually a woofer, and then it hit the back wave, and it could cause distortions in the thing. It's a level of neuroticism you don't see usually from a young guy in the hobby at all. And he's designing something to at least address that. Now, whether it makes a huge difference or not is a different story, but he's trying to do something better. And he puts the crossover box in a box just as well built as the speaker, and it's part of the stand. Only Cabas at Expona, that I remember, did that really well. So this guy, props to him. I'm going to try to shoot a video without anything that's going to block the video, but he deserves credit, and those are much more economical speakers that you should check out. Getting back to things that resonated with me in terms of, did I see anything that I would want to buy? I got to be honest. I got swayed by looks alone when I went into the Triangle Art Room. And man, then sound-wise, it was great too, with these Usher speakers that I thought for sure, maybe I'm just callous to what pricing is now. Everything's now 6 figures for a speaker that size or close to it. But it was like $44,000 for this huge Usher speaker, and Usher makes exceptional speakers. They have some of the best test CDs too. You gotta they're kind of legendary to try to find them. I've burned a few in the past. Excellent test CDs, but Usher makes great speakers, and this one is, I think it's probably near the top of their list, but it's relatively economical. If you can say $45,000 speaker is economical relative to what else is out there in the hobby at that same size, price point, and performance. But really what caught my eye were these Triangle Art turntables. And so I don't have a turntable. It's not really my niche. It's not something I'm really that interested in doing. But when I saw that Maestro, which was relatively $7,500 triangle art turntable, I was like, maybe I should get into turntables. This thing is so beautiful, and relatively, again, to other things out there, the 7,500 is a lot of money, tons of money, but relative to everything else out there and the level of aesthetics and again the quality of performance in that room had me thinking maybe I need to get into turntables. Maybe this would be the next thing. I just made a big investment into headphones, into that area that I don't have yet, so I guess the next thing is what I don't have, because I'm happy with everything I have. 2-channel, I'm not really envious of anything I've been hearing or worried about changing out my 2-channel or my home theater. So I'm actually looking for things that I haven't done yet or I don't have. And so the triangle art, props to them. They caught my attention. Looks alone, sound quality in that room is excellent too. Another room that I think deserves attention is the Prana Fidelity room. Steve Norber has been in the industry forever. I remember seeing him when I was lusting after Wisdom Audio Adrenaline speakers back in the day, and he was running the room for them. He makes these Prana Fidelity speakers that under $10,000, and man, the Baltic birch layers, the amount of layers that are put together in that cabinet structure deserves a lot of credit for going at under $10,000. I mean, I could see right then and there, I even think I mentioned it at the end of the video. And you're gonna probably wanna stay to the end of most of my videos, because sometimes I'll start with music, but then when the music ends, I can sometimes ask questions and have an interview with the designer or the person running the room. And that's sometimes the most valuable part, even more so than the music. And I was even asking him, I was like, you probably have to change the CNC bit, cutting that many layers. And he said, yeah, we have to replace the bit to CNC that many layers of the Baltic birch. So that's not a cheap cabinet to make. And one thing about the Prana Fidelity room is that when you go to as many shows as I do, I get exposed to them over and over and over. And it's a consistently high quality room. It's not one of these speakers that wows you, like the huge speakers, huge dynamics, or sizzly tweeter and something like that. But it's one of those speakers that I feel confident people that get it aesthetically, that Scandinavian design, if that fits your profile, it's going to be beautiful in your room. And then you're just going to be pleased all the time when you're sitting down. Listen, you're not going to get fatigued. It's got a nice pleasing sound. You're not always going to have the grass is greener kind of feeling, or even if you do, you'll probably always end up gravitating back to that high quality natural sound that he's able to get without a lot of sizzle and flare at a reasonable price point. So Prana Fidelity is another one that stood out to me today. I got the 5th floor that I still need to do, and then there's some other rooms that I want to talk about in more detail, like the Akora room. I've now seen them at multiple shows. Didn't disappoint. I think this is the best show to really analyze them for where the size room they're in. Thumbs up to them. I think this is even a better place and show to analyze them, and they definitely deserve a position in among those best of the point source box speakers out there right now, certainly at that price point or anywhere around it. So I'm going to spend more time at the final wrap up, talking about more rooms, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of tidbits of some things that popped out to me. The Jamie Fidelity one, I want to talk about that one really quick. This is a company I saw on a static display last year, but it was a sealed box. They just had the thing, and what can you do with a sealed box that's just on a table? You can't really do much. I couldn't review it, but they actually got a room this time, and I got to hear their bigger models. And this brings up a macro point that I want to make about sometimes the issues, how you have to calibrate yourself when you go to the room, almost like a car. You have to switch gears. When I went into that room, it was beautiful speakers, sealed box design, cabinet structure top notch, paint job top notch. And everything I heard sounded good, but they were playing it too low, especially for the type of music. I kind of made that hint somewhere in the video, as you heard me, and they turned it up a little bit, but it was still far lower than that wake-up level that you like to hear from a speaker to really start feeling it. So sometimes you have to dismiss things and look at the other qualities of it, sniff the potential of it, and then not nix it just because, okay, on an arbitrary basis, it was too low sounding to be a wowing sound to me. but I was still impressed with it. The paint job, the construction quality, the price point compared to others in that same ballpark. I still want to give that speaker kudos, because I think it does have potential if we could play some other material much louder. And so when you go to these shows, try to calibrate yourself, be prepared to shift gears. If one thing is not wowing you, don't let it write off the whole room. Look for other aspects that could pique your interest, maybe try to go back, and that's one I want to focus on more in the future. So without further ado, let me get downstairs, start uploading some videos and sharing more with you guys. See you soon.